dear students of class 11. Today we will be starting with the organic section. Okay, so about organic chemistry in class ICSE level, so you have learned about nomenclature, IPAC nomenclature of organic compounds, and you have also learned about isomerism, chain isomerism and position isomerism. And you have also learned about why carbon makes such a large amount of organic compounds. Okay, so here we will be dealing with IUPAC nomenclature of complex compounds in more detail. There are certain rules that you have to remember. So you already know what is organic chemistry. Organic chemistry is the chemistry of the study of carbon and its compounds. So you know about catenation, and you also know that carbon has tetravalency. That means it forms 4 covalent bonds, because of which they form such large amount of compounds. So today let's discuss about IUPAC nomenclature. IUPAC nomenclature. So in class 10, I have taught you about the systematic way of naming an organic compound. Okay, so at the beginning you have to write about prefix. The prefix are written first, then comes root carbon, then you have to write about, after root carbon you have to write primary suffix, and after that you have to write secondary suffix. So in prefix part, the alkyl group, the halo group comes, that you have learned in class 10, and in root carbon you have to select the longest continuous carbon chain, and don't forget that particular selected carbon chain should contain functional group if it is present, and also unsaturation if it is present in the compound. Now primary suffix, this primary suffix deals with whether you have single bond, double bond or triple bond. If single bond is present, you have to write ANE. If double bond is present, ENE, and if triple bond is present, then you have to write YNE. And finally the secondary suffix, here the functional groups are written. Like if you have carboxylic acid, OIC acid will be written. If you have say OH group, functional group, alcohol will be written as OL, and likewise. So this order you have to remember. Now let's take some examples and try to write this IUPAC names. Okay, so let's begin with the simple ones, the simplest of all. Then we'll be moving to more complex and more complex structures, and likewise we'll be learning about new rules. So let's take this compound CH2, say CH3, and you have here say CH3, and here suppose you have hydrogen. So in this particular organic compound, the first thing that you have to see always is whether you have functional group or not. If functional group is not present, then you have to look for whether there are double bond present or triple bond present or not. If these two are not present as in this particular compound, then you have to select the longest continuous carbon chain. So it starts either from the left hand side or the right hand side, or from the top or up. It has to be longest continuous carbon chain only if you don't have functional group and you don't have unsaturation. Please remember that. Now it has to be longest continuous carbon chain. It doesn't mean it has to be straight always. It could be branched one also, but it has to be continuous. So let's take this one. So here you have carbon 1, 2, 3, 4. In this particular straight chain, you have 4 carbons. You can count it. And if you come this way, 1, 2, 3, 4. So here also you have 4 continuous carbon chain. Now that means you can either take this longest continuous carbon chain, the straight one, or the branched one. So that is up to you now, because in both the ways you are getting 4 carbon in a straight chain. So I have taken a straight chain here. So this chain I have considered in my this root carbon part. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this after that, after selecting the longest continuous carbon chain, you have to number the carbon. Okay, numbering is very important. Here, either you can number it from the left hand side or from the right hand side. So the rule says is that you have to start numbering from that side, from whichever side your functional group comes first. Don't forget, functional group. If functional group is not present, double bond, triple bond, then comes your substituents, this prefix part. So this is outside the bond. This is your substituent or prefix. So from whichever side this carbon comes at lower carbon number, this carbon, if you are numbering from left hand side or right hand side, whichever way this carbon comes at lower number, then that chain should be selected. So if I start numbering from this side, 1, 2, 3, 4. This carbon comes at carbon number 3. So if I am numbering it from left hand side, okay. So if I number it from the right hand side, then 1, 2, 3, 4. So this particular carbon to which this CH3 is attached is coming at carbon number 2. Now you know it, 2 is lower than 3. Therefore the rule says us that you have to start numbering from your right hand side. So if you start numbering from your left hand side, then your naming of this compound will be wrong. So this numbering has to be done from the numbering of the carbon chain has to be done from the right hand side. 1, 2, 3, 4. So after having done that, now let's go to this part. Here, the alkyl group is present outside the chain. This is written as one prefix. So this CH3 is one methyl, and the number to which carbon it is attached, that also has to be written. So 2-methyl plus root carbon. How many carbons are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 means prop. 4 means bute. And primary suffix means whether single bond is present, double bond is present, or triple bond is present. Here you can see that in this chain, only single bond is present, therefore it is alkene, therefore it has to be written as An. And in this particular compound, you see there is no functional group, therefore secondary suffix is not written. So write them together. So whenever you write them together, 2-methyl butane. So this 2-methyl butane is the name of this, is the IPAC name of this particular compound. Okay, so we start with the simplest one, where no double bond, no triple bond, or no functional group were present, only substituent was present. Now let's take other example where you have, say, double bond. Okay, now let's take this example, say CH2, double bond, CH, CH3. Okay, now the same rule is followed. Now you have to see what? You have to see whether double bond is present or not, or functional group. Now if double bond is present, now this double bond has to be included in the longest continuous carbon chain that you are going to select. So here, let's select the longest continuous carbon chain. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can choose any way. I have chosen it to be straight one. So now after this, we have to start numbering. Numbering has to be done in such a manner that now what is present? Double bond. Double bond gets more preference. Okay? Double bond gets more preference. Therefore, now you have to start numbering from that side, either of the side, either left hand side or right hand side. The rule says us to start numbering the carbon chain from that side, from wherever this double bond comes at lower carbon number. So obviously, if I start numbering from here, this double bond is present between 1 and 2. So it comes at carbon number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the correct way of numbering. If you start numbering from this side, 1, 2, 3, the double bond would have come at carbon number 3, which the rule doesn't allow us to do. Okay? Remember, always at lower carbon number. So let's write the name of this compound then. So here, outside this longest continuous carbon chain that you have selected, what is present? Methyl group is present, CS2. So here, this CS2 is attached to carbon number 3. So prefix will be 3 methyl plus root carbon. Again, here is what? 4 carbon, therefore built. And here, what you have? In this particular compound, primary suffix, you can see double bond is present. Therefore, you have to write it as what? Alkene, E-N-E. Either you mention the position of this double bond. Now, every time you have to mention the position of double bond and triple bond. Okay? Now, if the double bond or triple bond is present at carbon number 1, then you don't have to mention it. If you mention it also, it's okay. If you don't mention it also, that's correct. So you can write either way, that is write them together 3 methyl built. You can write 1 in or just in. Okay, so we have taken with double bond. Had it been triple bond over here, then everything, the numbering would be same. The numbering would be same because triple bond, it has to come at lower carbon number. Okay, so 3 methyl built, but instead of 1 in, now this triple bond is what? Alkyne, YN. Therefore, here now it will be YNE, YNE, and here you will be having YNE. Either you can mention the position of this triple bond, or if you don't mention the triple bond's position at carbon number 1, that's also correct. But if triple bond is present at other position like 2, 3, then you have to always mention the position of the triple bond. Now, let's take the compound with certain functional group. Okay? Suppose the functional group is present here. CH2OH. Then, here, see, first we discussed about the simplest one, only the single bond containing compound, the double bond, triple bond. Now we are discussing the organic compound which contains functional group as OH. So here, let's try to write the name of this particular compound. Now in this case, if you can see that functional group is present, OH is alcohol, and again you have to start numbering from that side, either left hand side or right hand side. From which side you have to number? You have to start numbering from that side, from which this functional group comes at lower carbon number. So obviously, if you start numbering from here, now this has to be CH3, this has to be CH2, because the balance of carbon has to be maintained. Okay, so this is CH3. 1, 2, 3, 4. It would come at 4 if you start numbering from left hand side. The rule says us to start numbering from this side, because this, if I start numbering from this side, this OH comes at carbon number 1. So okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the correct way of numbering this carbon chain. Now let's say you have here is still CH3, you have CH2, CH3. Okay? this group. Now, let's look at it very carefully. Okay, I've seen students making mistake here. Now, since you always think A to B, you have to always consider the longest continuous carbon chain. So it would be like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 carbons in this chain. The other chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means this chain is the longest chain. So most of the students, they go for selecting this carbon chain and write the IPAC name accordingly. That is absolutely wrong. Okay, please remember, what did I say? The longest chain has to be selected only and only if functional group and double bond and triple bonds are absent. But here you can see that this functional group is present. OH is what? Alcohol. Therefore, you have to select the chain. Okay, you have to select the chain which should always contain this functional group. So you can put this inside this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the correct way of numbering the carbon chain. Please remember, okay? Please remember. Now, this CH2 is what? Ethyl. So at which carbon is present? 2 ethyl plus root carbon is 4 but. Then you have primary suffix. Primary suffix, you see all single bonds. So N plus. Now here you have secondary suffix also. So let me write just below it so that you won't be confused. But plus primary suffix is all single bond, that means ANE, and here you have secondary suffix, that is OH. OH is what? Alcohol. Alcohol is always written as OL. So what? This is the correct way of naming this compound. And what I did together, you have to always remember that whenever there is this vowel letter in the secondary suffix, while writing them together, this E is not written. Okay, so let's write its name then 2-ethyl built in. Now this E is not written because this vowel is present. Butane O. So this is the IPAC name of this compound. Okay, now let's deal with little more complex compounds. Okay. Now, since you have learned about the functional groups, I assume that you know the functional groups. If you do not know it, please revise it. Revise it. Without knowing that, you will not be able to write it. I told you in class 10 itself. Okay? Please revise it. Now, on your book, you have rules for naming compounds containing multiple bonds. Now this is new to you. Whatever we have discussed till now, most of it you already knew it. Now this will be more complex, little more in depth. Now please refer to page number 12.17. Okay, page number 12.17. 12.17. This page number. On this page number, you have certain rules, and out of this 1, 2, 3 rule, first 3 rules you already know it. Now, number 4 rule. We'll discuss first. Then we'll take certain example so that your confusion, if you have any confusion, that will be sorted out. Now say, if the multiple bond occurs 2 or more times, the prefix di, tri, etc. are used before the suffix ene or yn. That means, now in a single compound, suppose you have CH2, double bond CH. Then again you have single bond CH, double bond CH2. So in this particular compound, you can see that here double bond and here also double bond. Two double bonds are present. So while writing its name, what you have to mention is you have to mention its position and you have to write di. 1, 2, 3, 4. So its name would be 4 means you don't have any prefix. So its name would be built. 4 carbons. Therefore, I will build at 1 position. You have double bond. 1 position double bond, and at 3 position you have double bond. 1, 3. At 2 positions, you have to mention the position. Please don't forget. 1 and 3. 2 will be written as di. Okay. 1, 3 di in. In is for double. Okay. If there were 3 double bonds instead of di, it will be tri. Now suppose you had say triple bond and here also triple bond. Again, the numbering would be same. Build same number of carbon, 1 and at 3. The position is also same. It will be di because 2 triple bonds are present. Now instead of in, it will be y. Why? Because triple bond is present. Okay, di y. Hope this is clear. Now the next rule. Please refer to page number 12.17. This is very important. Point number 5 is very important. Look at it carefully. Okay? See. If the compound contains double as well as triple bond, the two are considered at par while applying lowest sum rule. However, if the sum of the numbers used to indicate the position of double bond and triple bond turns out to be the same, the double bond gets preference in numbering, but the compound is named as a derivative of alkyne in both the cases. So here this point you have to remember. So if I give you an example, then it will be more clear. So if the compound contains double as well as triple bond, the two are considered at par while applying lowest sum rule. However, if the sum of the numbers used to indicate the position of double and triple bond turn out to be the same, the double bond gets preference in numbering, but the compound is named as the derivative of alkyne in both the cases. So let's take an example, okay, where you have double bond as well as triple bond. That would be clear. Now we are going to discuss about a compound where you have double bond as well as triple bond. Let's discuss about rule number 5 of this naming compounds containing multiple bonds, which is on page number 12.17. Rule number 5. So let me explain you with an example. Okay. So here you have a compound, say CH3, CH, double bond, CH. Then you have C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons. So here we have a triple bond and here you have CH3. So if you start numbering, see how many carbons are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons are there. Now, if you start numbering from this side, left hand side, 1, 2, at carbon number 2, you have double bond. If you start numbering from right hand side, 1, 2, at 2 you have triple bond. So this rule tells us that we have to start numbering from that side, from whichever side this double bond comes at lower carbon number. Therefore, it is clear that we have to start numbering from this side. Okay, even though they are at equal distance, the rule says us to start numbering from that side from which this double bond comes at lower carbon number. So the numbering will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this is numbering order for this particular compound. Now, this is our longest continuous carbon chain. This one, 6 carbons are there. We don't have any prefix and we don't even have functional group. Therefore, it has to be named from root carbon since prefix are not present. So how many carbons are there? 6 carbons. So it starts with hex plus. Now you have to be very careful. Now since double bond and triple bond are present together in the same compound, now while writing also the double bond is written first. Okay, while numbering also the double bond is given more preference, and while writing also the double bond is written first. Please remember, this is very important. So here you have double bond and carbon number 2. So 2 in. So double bond is written. Then you come to the triple bond. The triple bond is present between carbon number 4 and 5. Always it is the lower carbon whose number is taken. So at 4 you have what? 1. That means triple bond. So while writing together, the name of this compound will be X2 in 4 1. So this is the name of this particular compound. Remember, okay, please, double bond gets more preference and also is written first. Now the sixth rule we have already discussed. Now, if in the secondary suffix, if you have this vowel letter, then we don't write e of the primary suffix. Okay. Now there are so many examples. Please refer to these examples. Go through it. Try to solve this particular exercises that is given. Now let's move on to the compounds. Let's discuss about those compounds which contain multiple bonding as well as what? Functional group. So let's discuss this. Let's discuss in a systematic manner. Now we are going to discuss about what? The compounds containing functional group as well as double bond, triple bond, and it may have prefix also, some substituents. Now, for naming such compounds, you have certain rules which is given on page number 12.24. Okay, please go through these points. Now let me tell you. Okay, here are certain steps that are given. Please go through it. Now, these steps we will be applying to name certain complex compounds. You have to always remember that the functional group is given the most preference in numbering. Now, priority order. We have to remember this. Priority order for numbering carbon atom. Okay, for numbering carbon atom in the chain. The first functional group is given the most preference. Functional group. Then comes your double bond. Double bond is given next preference. Then comes triple bond. And at last you have certain substituents. Okay? So in a compound, see now, what does it mean? Now let me explain. In a compound, in a particular compound, if you have functional group, you have double bond also, you have triple bond also, and suppose you have what? Substituent also. Then from which side should you start numbering the carbon chain? In that case, you have to start numbering from that side from which functional group comes at lower carbon number. Please, you have to remember this rule. Functional group has to come at lower carbon number. If functional group is absent, then you will be looking for double bond. From whichever side the double bond comes first, you will start numbering from this side. Now, triple bond. After that, and pass the substituent. Okay. Now let's take certain compound and in functional group also. Now let us discuss this one. In functional group also, there are so many functional groups, as you know it. but the most preference is given. See, now the compounds that you usually have in your syllabus are those compounds which has carboxylic acid, which has aldehyde, which has ketone, which has alcohol. So let's remember the priority order for these four functional groups. The first priority is given to carboxylic acid. Carboxylic acid, that is C double bond OH. After that comes aldehyde, that is C double bond OH. Then comes ketone. Now ketone is C double bond O, and both the sides you have carbon chain. You don't have hydrogen. Then at last is what? Alcohol. Alcohol is OH. These are the functional groups. So in a compound, if you see more than one functional group, then you have to start numbering from that side, from whichever side carboxylic acid comes first. Okay? Then aldehyde, then ketone, and the last preference is given to OH. Now let's take some example. Now with example, it would be more clear. Now, let's take this example. Say you have CH2 double bond CH 2 C CH2 C double bond O CH3. So let's consider this compound. Now, the first thing that you have to do is what? Longest continuous carbon chain. This will contain the functional group. The functional group is here. This is your functional group. So this is your longest continuous carbon chain. So you have to start numbering now. If you start numbering from here, double bond comes first. You have to identify which are the groups that are present. Double bond is present, functional group is present, CH3 is present. Now that's how we have discussed about the groups. Now you have to start numbering from that side, from which the functional group comes first. Please remember. Don't be mistaken that you saw double bond over here and you started numbering because it comes at carbon number 1. No, that would be correct. That would be correct if this functional group was not present. Now, since the functional group is present, this gives the highest priority now. This has to come at what? Lower carbon number. So if I start numbering from this side, 1, 2, it comes at 2. If you start numbering from this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, it comes at carbon number 4, which is wrong. So we have to start numbering from this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, 5. Now, don't forget the order. Prefix, then root carbon, then comes primary suffix, then secondary suffix. So you every time you have to follow this order. So what is the prefix here? Prefix is this part. This is out of this longest continuous carbon chain with group, which is attached to carbon number 3. So this is usually first 3 methyl. Root carbon, how many carbons are there? You counted it. 5. 5 means pent. Primary suffix. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. All these 3 are single bond and you have a double bond present over here. Now therefore, your primary suffix will be in. Which position? Carbon number 4. So 4 in. And what is your secondary suffix? Secondary suffix is the functional group. So C double bond O. This side also you have carbon. This side also you have carbon. That means this is ketone. Ketone is written as O-N-E, on. Okay? And this position has to be mentioned, carbon number 2. So 2 on. So while writing together, since this is what? You know it, this is vowel, this E is not written while writing them together. So the name of this compound will be 3-methyl pent 4 in 2 on. So this is the IPAC name of this particular compound. So now let's take a compound which contains, say, 2 functional group. Okay, 2 functional group in the same compound. So this order will be same. If you have any confusion, if you haven't understood some of my languages, please, to understand it better, refer to page number 12.24. There the rules are clearly written. The application part, we are doing it here. Okay, how it has to be applied. So C, say you have C double bond O, OH, CH2. You have say CH2C. Now here you have say BR, bromo group, and say you have hydrogen here, and say you have C double bond OH. Okay, so this compound we have taken. Now the first thing that you have to see is the functional group. So here you have C double bond OH, this functional group, and you have another functional group here, C double bond OH. C double bond OH is aldehyde. So instead of taking aldehyde, okay, let's take ketone, CS3. So see, if you have atomy, that will be aldehyde. You have both carbon on both sides of C double bond. Now this is what? This is ketone. This is ketone. And this is carboxylic acid. This is carboxylic acid. Now let's select the longest continuous carbon chain. So we have selected the longest continuous carbon chain. So let's number it. You remember the priority order I have written just before this. The carboxylic acid COOH gets the highest priority. So you have to start numbering from this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? Now, highest priority, the functional group which gets highest priority is always written as secondary suffix. That means that carboxylic acid has to be written here. Then the question might arise in your mind that where this functional group go then? This C double bond O, this is also a functional group which is ketonic functional group. Now in such cases, in a compound, if you have two functional groups, the highest priority ordered functional group is always written as what? Secondary suffix. And the other one, the less priority ordered this functional group will be written as prefix here. Okay, please remember, it will be written as prefix. So let's start writing the name of this particular compound. Now here, this Br is also our what? Prefix. This is bromo. Whenever it is written as prefix, it has to be written as bromo, and this it will be written as keto or oxo. OXO, oxo or keto. Now when are you going to write oxo or keto? When this is written as prefix. Okay? Don't be confused. The example that we discussed just before this, there, whenever you had C double bond O, it was written as ONE, on. On is written whenever it is written as secondary suffix. Please don't be confused. Okay? So here, this time, since more priority group is present, this C double bond O will be written as prefix, and it has to be written as what? It has to be written as oxo or keto. Now, you saw in prefix part, which groups are coming? This bromo is coming, and this oxo or keto is coming. So, again, which one to write first? You have, in such situation, you have to follow the alphabetical order. So, its name starts with B, and its name starts with O, or even though if its name starts with K, this B gets more priority. It comes first in alphabetical order, therefore this is written first. To which carbon it is attached? It is attached to carbon number 4. So 4 bromo, comma, which carbon? Carbon number 5? 5 oxo. You can write keto also. So this is your prefix. Root carbon, how many carbons we have? 6 carbon. So 6 carbon means hex. How primary suffix? Look at here the bonds. They are all single bonds. Never be confused. You saw double bond, where is the double bond bond? No, you should be considering the bond between carbon and carbon, not between carbon and oxygen. Carbon and carbon. You can see all single bonds. So it is in. And what is your secondary suffix? Secondary suffix is your carboxylic acid, and carboxylic acid is written as OIC acid. And since it's present in first carbon, you don't have to write the number. You just have to write OIC acid. Okay, so write it together. 4 bromo, 5 oxo, hex in. Now, since this is starting with a vowel, this E is not written. Okay, hex in oic acid. So, from this, in today's class, we have discussed from the simplest to the most complex this IPAC names for these compounds. Okay. Now your assignment is to go through all these rules properly, practice the exercises that are given in your book, and apply them not only from the structure to write the name, and sometimes in your examination the names are given, you have to write the structure. The same rule is applied. Okay, so we'll be discussing about organic chemistry, more about organic chemistry in our next video. Till then, please keep revising. Thank you.